Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Mahdi Tijani back with you again. I'm going to be reacting to a video today that Ali Dawah hosted on a program on Iman channel, I believe it was, and it's the title of the video is "Talk to Me Polygamy: To Be or Not to Be." So let's get into it.
It's the matter of polygamy. The question that needs to be asked is polygamy something that could be practiced in today's time? We just want to see, where should we start from? Brother Yusuf, I'll ask you the question yourself. Obviously, polygamy is not just because whenever people hear about polygamy, they just think about, oh, this is what Islam teaches. But around the world, you have Christians, you have Hindus, you have Sikhs, you have people in any kind of religion. They practice this. Do you think it's something that could be practiced in today's time?
I would say yes. Why? Because Islam didn't come for any particular time or era. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sent Islam as a religion, He sent it so that it's compatible with all times and ages. So if Allah has legislated a particular law, then that law can be carried out in any time, in any place, obviously provided that their conditions are met.
Okay. Brother Muhammad, what's your take on this? Do you think it can be practiced? Do you think maybe men take advantage of this? Expand a bit.
Well, definitely men do take advantage of this, just as they do take advantage of many things, because as the Quran says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى, that surely man is in a state of transgression. And that applies to men and women. But generally speaking, going back to what you said, which was absolutely true, I think it's very important to note that in all of the ancient texts, almost without any exception, like for example, the Old Testament, you have Abraham has three wives, 2 wives and 1 concubine. Solomon has 300 wives and 700 concubines. In other texts, like for example, even the Sikh scriptures, six of the 12 gurus were in polygamous relationships. So this is not an exclusive.
All right. So immediately, this is a point that is continually missed in the Muslim community, time and time again. And if you've been following my content for a while, then you will already know what point I'm about to make. But Muhammad Hijab, her brother Muhammad Hijab, he illustrated the point I'm about to make perfectly. And that is, whenever we quote examples, and by the way, I'm pro-polygyny. Let me just get that straight right off the rip. I am pro-polygyny, okay? But we need to just establish a few points first. And that is, when quoting or citing examples of men, whether they are Muslim or otherwise, throughout history, who have practiced polygyny, we, as Muhammad Hijab picked out just now, we pick out examples, or he picked out examples of exceptional men. Exceptional men. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, 2 wives and 1 concubine. Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, 300 wives. I think he was about to mention the 12 Sikh. I don't know what he was talking about. Anyway, some type of scholars in the Sikh religion. My point is this, as I say over and over and over again, women don't have a problem with polygyny. I'll say it again. Women, the most feminist, the most liberal feminist woman in the world, has no problem with polygyny. If it's for the right man. If he is a high enough value of a man. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was a prophet. Sulaiman alayhi salam was a prophet. Not just a prophet, a man of actual means, resources. Throughout history, regardless of religion, culture, background, men who have lots of resources tend to have lots of women. That's why Genghis Khan has quite literally populated the planet with his seed. On average, every 1 in 200 males are a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. Robert Kiyosaki, for those of you who know Robert Kiyosaki, he's a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. Why? Men who have had resources throughout history tend to have many women. That's the way it goes. Why? Because men who have resources, they are able to create offspring that are not a burden on society. Men of resources are able to take care of the offspring that they have with many women because they have lots of resources, wealth, power, so on and so forth. So society rewards them. Women reward them by flocking to them, by voluntarily by happily signing up to be under the wing of this man who is able to take care of them. That's the way it's always been. The problem is Muslim men, and I'm not saying this is Muhammad Hijab's point of view, I'm just simply saying Muslim men in general take examples like this. Sulaiman alayhi salam, I believe he was a king, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Ibrahim alayhi salam, exceptional men, and then try to take this rule and say, yes, I want to do polygyny. I'm going to put all my wives in council houses and feed all my kids off the state. And what's wrong with this? And I will tell you this. There's nothing against it in the Quran and Sunnah. I cannot tell you it is haram for you to do this. But I will say this. If you are not an exceptional man, and by exceptional man, I don't just mean resources, although that's very important. Not necessarily a deal breaker, by the way, because women have shared exceptional men, such as the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ali radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, etc., who were not rich. They were not wealthy. But they were still exceptional men. Exceptional in their deen. Exceptional men. Women are going to share you. It helps if you have resources. There's no two ways about that. Because how else are you going to take care of the offspring that come from that marriage? Nevertheless, women are prepared to share exceptional men. Men on a mission. Men going somewhere. Maybe a scholar, for example. Scholars are not always wealthy, right? A man on a mission going somewhere. On his graft. This is a man who is respected by many men and desired by many women. They are prepared to share him. No problem. But the problem is when the average Muslim man takes these examples and thinks that they apply to him. No, Habibi, you're not an exceptional man. And I'm not saying you can't get married again. You can. The deen has facilitated it for you. But prepare to pay hell with your women. Prepare to pay hell. And I speak from experience. You know this. I had 3 wives at one point. And I was not an exceptional man. I was an average man. Actually, at one point in my, whilst I had those women, I was a high earning man. But I was still an average man in my character, which meant I still couldn't. I wasn't up to the plate. Women don't share average men. Women don't happily share average men, I should say. Women happily share exceptional men. And best believe you are going to have to be exceptional if you want to be able to tame the lionesses. Because that's what they become in polygyny. Lionesses. It's not easy taming those women because emotions are running high. You know, there's lots of jealousy. There's lots of, you know, it's easy for one or the other to become discontent. You need to be on your game all the time. So it's very dangerous taking these examples and then thinking that they apply to the everyday average man. They do not. Can you still do it if you want to? Yes. But there's a price to pay.
But like Islam doesn't have the monopoly of on this. And as you correctly said as well, like for example, liberalism as a political philosophy doesn't actually restrict people from if they wanted to practice polygamy. And this goes for both genders. Obviously, this is not an Islamic ruling, but there's nothing that says within liberalism or atheism or any of these isms really that polygamy shouldn't happen. Actually, the only reason why it's become more of a taboo today is because you could say some groups of society have made it so. So it's not really anything to do with ideology or religion because most ideologies and religions allow polygamy. So it's all about the situation. So going back to your question, depending on the people that are involved in a relationship, if they feel comfortable and it's consensual, right? And so I see no issue with that. And I think a right-minded liberal would feel the same way.
On the issue of consensual, no, it doesn't need to be consensual. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that your first wife doesn't have to agree if you want to marry again. I don't know if that is what Brother Muhammad Hijab is referring to, or maybe he's referring to the next woman that you want to marry, in which case, of course, she would have to consent. You can't just marry her against her will. Nevertheless, your first wife doesn't need your permission. Prophet will come back from war expeditions sometimes with another wife. How's he going to? There was no phones back then, rude boy. No emails. Just comes back with another wife. But again, I will have to re-emphasize and re-highlight my point. Brothers watching this now, don't get too carried away. Don't get too excited. If you're an average man, you cannot be an average man and expect above average outcomes. I'll say that one more time. You cannot be an average man and expect above average outcomes. It doesn't work like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And although both brothers have brought fair arguments, but I would say on the other side of the argument is that we're living in a country where polygamy marriage is forbidden. Yeah, it's illegal.
Yeah.
So and as Muslims, we've been instructed by people in knowledge and whatnot.
Well, let's just debunk that real quick. Nikah is not considered or recognized by the state. Nikah is not recognized by the state. As far as they're concerned, you've got a girlfriend. Now, of course, if you want to get a marriage in the registry office, then yes, you can't do that twice. That's bigamy. It's illegal, which is ironic, really, because you can have as many mistresses as you like whilst you're married, and that's not illegal. Nevertheless, nikah, as many as you like, is not prohibited by the state because it's not recognized by the state.
Should obey the law of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And although it is permissible in Islamic law, there's nothing in Islamic law that has made it mandatory to us to go out our way to have polygamous marriage. So therefore, when you're looking at two sides of the coin where one is a legal stance on the country that you're living in to something where it's just merely permissible. I think we should just take the stance of not breaking the law.
Just to kind of contest what you've just said there, it's true. What you've said is correct. It is illegal, but then that begs the question: why is polygamy illegal per se and adultery is not illegal? I mean, this is an incredible double standard from a moral perspective.
Okay,
So
very valid question.
Yeah, good point.
I just want to do like a little survey here. Okay, let's come to the brothers. How many of you guys would get into a polygamous marriage? Be honest, don't worry, the camera's not on you. How many of you guys would get into a polygamous marriage? For example, not in this, let's say if it was in a country that's legal, for example. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sisters, how many of you guys wouldn't have a problem with your husband marrying again? Yes, that was expected. Okay, one sister. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I want to come to the sisters. Sisters, what is your main concerns with the issue of polygamy? Not that you're against it, obviously. Like, what's your say on it? Like, let's go through some sisters. Like, what is the fears maybe sisters face, or what is it? Like, we want to take it from your point of view. Let's go to the sister, inshallah. Yeah, you sister. Yeah, you sister.
Oh,
yeah.
What I think is it's all about honesty. Like, if you're going to get into it, then you should be honest and upfront before you marry someone, because that girl might not know what she's getting herself into. And what I've seen from like a lot of older people is that they'll like go hide a second wife somewhere, and they wouldn't really tell them, and then somehow they'll all find out, and then the kids will get involved, and like the kids will have some sort of like hatred towards their parent, and that's not nice.
So you're saying
She raises a really good point. This is very true. And the only type of men who hide a second wife tend to be low-value men. Average men who secretly know on some level of consciousness that they shouldn't be marrying again. You just don't qualify as a man. Yeah, he knows he's the average dude, average everything, average knowledge, average maturity, average income, average body, average health. Everything's average, possibly even below average. And then as a result of that, on some level of consciousness, he knows he shouldn't be doing it, so he needs to hide her. And then what happens? Everyone finds out anyway. Kids resent the father, on and on. She's 100% correct.
Be hidden. Let's go to this sister here.
I think it's not really a problem, you know. The only problem is when they make a problem. When the wife thinks that he's done it behind her back, or something like that. That's when it becomes a problem. That's not really a problem.
Okay, let's go to this brother quickly.
I do disagree with one of the sisters that said that it should not be.
Can you see? She said when it's done behind my back. I've seen this. I've seen so many interviews with women now, particularly interviews with women talking with the proverbial high-value man. And whenever a man makes it very clear to her that if I were to be in a relationship with a woman, I wouldn't be loyal just to you, I never see a bad reaction from the women. They're like, you know what? Well, fair enough. I appreciate your honesty. What they don't like is when you lie to them. Is when you either cheat behind their back or you sell them lies up front and then end up later on down the line, exploring polygyny anyway. And I say polygyny and not polygamy because polygamy is the wrong word. Polygamy is when man or woman can have multiple spouses, multiple intimate partners. Polygyny with an N is when it is exclusive to the man, when he can have multiple intimate partners with women. Nevertheless, let's carry on.
Hidden before nikah. because as the law of the Quran, like fitra, a man might not decide at the point of nikah, the first nikah, that he's not going to do a second one, or he's not going to involve himself in a marriage. But later, during the course of the same nikah, he might decide that I want to go into another marriage.
Okay.
So when it says that it should not be, as in it should be revealed before nikah, because that's not always the choice, and that's not always the case. And sometimes, even for example, if a man said, okay, very liberal, and said, yes, I don't mind getting into two nikahs, or how much Islam permits us to, and then if he declares that in the society we're living in, the first thing that the girl or the opposite gender will say, okay, sorry, I can't be with you. So then,
all right, so I'm gonna have to check the brother right here. I'm gonna have to check him. The only type of men who are scared to advertise their polygynous nature are low-value men, or men lacking in confidence and ambition. Now, when you're a younger man in particular, I know it's more difficult to have the balls on you because it takes time for a man to mature. Nevertheless, I'm going to check the brother regardless. And that is, you need to have the confidence to look a woman in the eye and say to her, look, if you marry me, you need to understand, it's not just going to be me and you. One day I'm going to marry again. I'll make sure I can take care of all of you, but you won't be having me exclusively. Women respect that. You might lose some along the way. She might say, you know what? This is not for me, I'm afraid. That's okay. But that's 1,000,000 times better than selling her sweet lies and then afterwards getting married again anyway. Let me tell you why. Because you're going to get married to this woman. You're going to have kids with this woman. And then you're going to go and get married again. Break the first woman's heart because you broke her trust now. And that's the real point of contention here. Believe me. It's a real problem. Sometimes it's worse than the actual fact that you've got another woman. Sometimes the fact that you broke your trust towards her is worse than the fact that you've got another woman. So now you've broken that, you gotten married, you had kids, you've broken your word, and now she wants to leave. What happens? Broken home. Kids raised by a single mom. Kids raised in a broken home. Dad's no longer in the picture. You don't want that. So to the young men watching, you need to have the confidence to tell a woman, yes, one day I might. And if you don't like that, you need to get off my program because we are not compatible for each other. You will lose some along the way, but they will respect you for it. And the one who says yes to you with that mindset, by the time you come around to actually getting married again, you're not going to have as many problems as you would if you sold her sweet lies up front.
It becomes hard for the man as well. Even though he's according to the Sharia and wants to...
But shouldn't he be open? If he says he wants to get married again, shouldn't he be vocal, open about that to his first wife, that I will do this? That's what the sister's trying to say, like we should be open about it.
Before marriage? Before marriage?
Yeah, before marriage.
Before marriage, so that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's not always the case. Because at that point...
Okay, so you're saying the brother might say, you know what, no, I don't want to get married again, but later on he might change his mind.
Yeah.
But then again, we do have a ruling with the scholars say, for example, that if the wife says that, she doesn't want you to get married again, and it's signed, it might be too late for you to change your mind because it's done and dusted, which the sister might read.
And brothers never agree to that, ever. Never agree to a sister saying to you, if you want to marry me, you have to sign in the marriage contract that you will never marry again. Never, ever do that. If a woman says that to you, you agreeing to her, number one, you're bending to her will. This sets a negative precedence in the relationship right off the bat, that she gets to dictate terms. She is forcing you against your natural fitrah, and you're agreeing to it. You're a pussy. Don't agree to this. Ever. If it comes to the point where she says, well, you can't have me if you don't agree to it, fine. Off you go. Ma'as-salama. Next. You have to have this mindset with women because they secretly love it. They secretly love knowing that you don't need them. Women don't want to be needed. They want to be wanted. There is a big difference. But when you're making all these concessions left and right, what you are subcommunicating to her is, I need you. Don't do that.
This they don't know about it. However, the question is one of yes.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to polygamy marriage as well, many of the times, or what it usually boils down to when it comes to the permissibility of it, is that whether the husbands can be fair, whether they can be equal. And there will be someone that will argue against it that right in this day and age, no, they can't be. Especially in the West and in this country, the standard of living is getting higher. Many people can't afford to take a second wife. Usually you'll find ones that do engage in that as well. They'll end up cheating the system by trying to do something that is halal, but then again, something again which is going against the law of the land.
Okay.
So things like that need to be taken in context, and especially in this day and age, it's not recommended.
So any of the brothers here, did someone put their hand up that they said they would get in a polygamous marriage? Brother Farouk.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you would, but why?
Why?
What's behind it? Why?
Look,
as a man, where are you coming from when you're saying yes, I would?
As a person who lives in Britain, yeah. You said about it's not obeying the law of the land. The law of the land doesn't recognise nikah anyway.
Correct.
So khalas.
You said that.
My marriage is nikah only. I haven't gone to any British law and got it signed off. My nikah is only a nikah. It's not a British marriage. So they don't recognise my marriage anyway.
Yeah, but it's not against the law, though, is it?
No, it's not against the law. So I haven't broken the law.
But you getting married again?
No, because nikah's not recognised. So it's not even a marriage I'm involved in. Nikah is not recognised by Britain.
No, we're not talking about here. Is it valid or not? We're saying as a man.
Yeah, so I'm saying, so yes, I would, and I'm not breaking the law, and I would do it because it's halal for me.
Is that the only reason? Like, it's halal? From a man's perspective?
Allah says take 2, 3, or 4. He doesn't say take 1 first. He says take 2, 3, or 4.
Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said,
and then in ayah 2 or 3 ayahs down the road, Allah says, and you will never be just. So fear Allah, you will always love one more than the other.
Let's go to the sisters. Maybe the sisters want to finish the ayah.
All right. So Ali Dawah is asking for a reason. Why would you want to do again? Why would you want to do it again? And a lot of men feel reluctant to answer when asked this, particularly by women. So they tend to come up with the politically correct answers, the holier than thou answers. I want to help a sister, I want to improve her situation, like some type of knight in shining armor. Let me make it abundantly clear today, right here, 1st of July 2021, why a man wants to get into a polygynous relationship. You ready? A man wants to take a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th wife for one reason and one reason only: to smash. Period. A man, let me tell you something. I've had 3 wives at one point. The overarching incentive, desire, want to marry again is for one thing only: additional sexual access. The end. No other reason. It is enough for me to be loved by one woman. Loved. To seek the comfort and nurturing qualities that a woman has. All of that is enough from one woman. I'm telling you. Is it a bonus from other women? Sure, it's a bonus. But I'm telling you, it's enough from one woman. But the sexual access to multiple women, that you can never satisfy that. That appetite never goes away. And Allah has restricted us to 4. But if He didn't, men would just go on and on endlessly, like Genghis Khan. Now, of course, you have to become a Genghis Khan first, but that's a separate story. My point is this. The overarching reason, motivation for a man to take on additional women is to smash. That's it. Multiple flavors, nothing else. No other reason. The other qualities that women bring, in the nurturing, the femininity and so on, that's a bonus. But I'm telling you, you can get all of that from one. The love, the nurturing, one is enough for that. Everything else, when it comes to additional sexual partners or additional wives in the case of Islam, for one reason and one reason only: to smash. That's it. No other reason. There is no other incentive. Think about it. Do you understand how much of a responsibility it is to take on another wife? Wife is hard work. And I tell you as a man of experience, it's hard work. At one point, I remember I had all 3 of my wives on their period at the same time. Imagine. You're thinking, oh, if one wife's on the period, then I can sleep. No, bro, I had all 3 on their period at the same time, dealing with their emotions, their drama. Long. So long. The overarching motivation for a man is additional flavors. The end. I don't care if you don't like it. That's the truth. That's the truth. Now, Islam has facilitated that, but only if a man is willing to take responsibility. And that's why I say the motivation is not responsibility. The motivation is not to help a woman get out of her situation. The motivation is none of those altruistic motives. I'll prove it to you. If a man was offered the opportunity to improve a woman's situation, take her out of her hardship, but no sex, would he take it? You can marry her, but you can never sleep with her. Would you take it? No, you wouldn't. You lying toad. Don't lie to me. You wouldn't. Maybe you give to charity and so on, but to take on a whole nother wife, in this hypothetical example, you take on a whole other wife, and you can do everything with her except sleep with her. Would you take it? No, you wouldn't. Now I'll flip the script. You can take on this whole other wife, and you have no responsibilities towards her, none at all, but you get to smash. You get to sleep with her. Would you do it? Would you take it? Of course you would. You lying toad. Don't lie to me. I know you because I am you. We're the same. Me and you, Habibi, we're the same. We think the same. That's in our fitra to be this way. So don't give me this nonsense, these altruistic motives. No. One reason and one reason only. Additional sexual access. Allah has facilitated that only if, however, we can be responsible towards them. The end.
Is that where the ayah ends? Is that where it ends? Let's go to the sister here.
If you feel like you can't be just...
Sorry, can you say that?
If you have a fear that you cannot be just,
yeah,
then you take one.
Did you hear that, Farouk? Yeah, well, I'll let the sister finish it for you.
It's not possible.
Okay, so let me ask a question.
Can we say that we'll definitely be just, we'll give each the amount in regards to money and house and thing. Love is not something that you can control in regards to your heart.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's spoken about this. He says, وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّكَاحِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ فَلَا تُمِيلُوا كُلَّ الْمَيْلِ فَتَذَرُوهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقِ. He says that you will never be able to be just with your wives, and even if you'll try it. So then he gives you advice. He says, so don't lean. Literally, the Arabic word is quite similar to English. So don't lean in one direction of one woman, so to leave the other one suspended. In other words,
is that in regards to material things, or is that in regards to love?
So what the scholars have said is basically that when it comes to you, where your heart is,
right, okay,
you're not held accountable.
But in regards to what we've seen in many statistics, that when brothers that take on another wife, what happens is they end up cheating the system, right? They'll claim single for the second, they'll do.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. The brother's right. And by the way, I'm going to get onto this brother in a second, but he's right. I cannot dispute that. You can't take on multiple wives and then put them all on the system, sponsored by the state. That's not how it works. Men of resources are rewarded with additional women, not broke men. Now, has the deen facilitated it? Yes. But you're going to struggle with your women. Women don't share average men. Just remember that.
They'll do little dodgy around the bend things to try and get something, which there's, and that's not right. No matter what.
Okay. No way. Yeah, let's go to this brother here, inshallah.
I saw one of your videos, Muhammad or Ali, and you were saying that both of you were in the video, and you were saying that people in Britain practice polygamy, but they don't see it as polygamy.
Mm.
So boyfriends and girlfriends having multiple partners, that is polygamy, but they won't see it because of the way they see polygamy, or when they think of polygamy, more than one wife. No, I don't agree with polygamy, but then technically they're doing it already.
Okay, so the question that needs to be asked is, okay, look, if we look at maybe certain individuals, they have a right to have, premarital relationships, girlfriends, etc. So what's the difference? Because if we look at it, we can say, they're actually practicing polygamy, but with no rules or regulations. So, maybe somebody might come and say in Islam, there's rules and regulations to protect the woman. But over here, maybe there's individuals who go out there and just, have girlfriends, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it may be. So what's your take on this? Let's go to this sister and then we'll go here.
Because it's not legalized. It's not written on paper.
Okay.
That's the difference. That's where they can be with multiple partners.
Yeah.
But in Islam we don't have that. You're not allowed to be with another person until you're married.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay. So let's just go to the sister, inshallah. Yeah.
The point that I wanted to make was more in the sense of, if you look at the reasons polygamy happens in Islamic history and in our cultures, it's not because of lust. If you look at, for example, in my country, the living standards are quite bad. So if a man passes away, his brother will marry the wife.
Okay.
And these are reasons that you can find that make sense. But in the sense of, okay, I'm living in the West and I have desires, you shouldn't even be looking at a woman that's not your wife.
Okay.
It's not halal.
See, women this is where the moralizing comes in. women have found a way to make sense of why a man would want to do polygyny that makes sense to them. Because women fundamentally don't get it. Women are not built to understand it. Women, if a woman is in love with a man and desires her man, she cannot think of another man. She can't even think of it. So women don't understand why men, if a man loves me and desires me, why would he want to get another woman? So the way that they justify it in their minds and try to explain it to themselves, because they know that the deen has said, yes, you can do it, is by saying, oh, well, maybe if there are exceptional circumstances, the brother dies, you're in a poor country and so on, then perhaps I can see the sense in it. There's a practical reason for it. That's how women often try to make sense of it. To ladies watching, if you're watching this, don't try and make sense of it. You will never understand it. You're not built to understand it because you were not made that way. You were made to fall in love with one man, and if you love him and you desire him, and I always use those two together because it's possible for a woman to cheat on her husband if she's not in love with him or she doesn't desire him, or worse, both of those together. Different discussion for a different day. I've spoken about this in videos in the past. In fact, I might add it in the cards or as an end screen. I will add it in the end screen. So women will often try to make sense of it by bringing these examples, where there's an extreme need for it, which is perfectly legitimate. But sisters, understand this. Even without those situations coming about, a man still wants to have as much sexual access with as many different women as possible. That's just how we were created. Now, Allah has limited us and placed restrictions and guidelines and that we have to toe and certain requirements that we have to meet and so on. That's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But just fundamentally understand, a man doesn't need a reason. You do. You need a reason to cheat on your husband or to be promiscuous. A man doesn't. He can love you, desire you, and still want as many different women as he can possibly have. If he's a non-Muslim, that would be unlimited. If he's Muslim, that would be restricted to 4 women. Don't try to understand it. Just accept it. That's how we are.
Okay. I think that's for as another side of the argument, I think that's a valid point. I think in regards to our living standards in the West, they're much more richer than what you'll find people in poverty-stricken countries. So is it a necessity for us to get another wife when there is no need to?
Okay.
I am always skeptical about men who defend the position of monogamy. And I'm going to make a statement here. I'm going to make a guess. I don't know this brother from Adam. The black brother, I don't know him. But I'm going to make a guess here, and that is, I think at the time of this recording, which was 3 years ago now, that he wasn't married. I don't know if he's married now, but I think, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, fine, I accept. If you know the brother, let me know in the comments. I think he's not married, and I'll tell you why. Men who tend to defend feminine positions tend to be men who are trying to attract women. They think that if I defend her position, I will attract her. And they're completely wrong. There's a fish that does this in the sea, by the way. I was listening to it in a book. What was it? It was The Parasitic Mind by Gad Saad. Be careful with that book, by the way, yeah? Just be careful with that book. There's a lot of troubling atheistic stuff in there. Nevertheless, he mentions a fish in the sea that in order to attract a female fish, it resembles the look of a female fish, thinking it can attract it. It's the same when men defend feminine positions. Feminists, I'm not saying the brother's a feminist, I'm simply saying feminist men, they are actually doing it as a covert way of trying to attract women. They think if I agree with her on all of her positions, I will attract her. This is patently untrue. Patently untrue. Women tend to have an innate proclivity towards men that disagree with them. Because it's like, in their mind, it's like, how dare he disagree with me? I need to make him see my side. And they run faster and they work harder to try and get your approval and your validation. The men whose approval and validation comes easily, they take it for granted. So I'll make a guess that this brother's not married. That's my feeling. But if he is, generally speaking, men who defend female positions, female narratives, are doing it either consciously or subconsciously to be attractive to that sex. Isn't it ironic?
There's a lot of brothers who are single, and then you've got brothers that have married and then are marrying other sisters.
So you're saying, priority to the single brothers? Yeah, priority to the single brothers. Yeah, so the brothers, is it?
All right, here we go. We give priority to the single brothers. Once again, look, if polygyny is done properly, then it's a man who has resources, a man who is able to take on multiple women, right? We want our women to be married. We don't want them to be single. But women need to be taken care of, generally speaking. That's how it was back in the day. Okay, fine. Now today you can make an argument that the state can take care of women. Fine. Nevertheless, how it used to work back in the day was the more resources you have, the more women you can take under your wing to look after. It was a responsibility. That's what it was. So to say, oh, it's not fair, it should be, there's other brothers who are single. No, this is nonsense. He who has more resources is entitled to more women, should have more women. In fact, I'll go one step further. It is selfish for a man of resources to funnel and channel all of his resources to one woman. I'll say it again. It is selfish for a man of resources to channel and funnel all of those resources, all of said resources, to one woman. That's selfish. There's other women that need taken care of as well. So understand that. It's not like some type of blank slate equalism. Yes, we want all men to get married, inshallah, of course. But I'm simply saying, men who have more resources are more entitled. That's the way it goes. Now, I understand most men don't have resources and still practice polygyny, and that's why we're having this discussion now. So I'll link the rest of the video in the description, and you guys can finish it. There's another 15 minutes or so. But I hope I covered some important points there, because there's a lot of misconceptions about why a man wants to get married again, about what type of men are entitled to get married again, and those type of men who tend to defend female positions. Understand where it's coming from, and let me know if that brother was married back then I was wrong. But I don't think he was married. I don't think he was, because I have experience of dealing with these type of men in the past. Men who defend female narratives tend to be men who are single and are trying to attract women. The irony. If you found value in the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Join my private men's community. Gentlemen, we have a private men's community where we take a deep dive on these discussions, and once a month we have a Zoom call as well. All of that stuff's in the description, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.